sometimes I feel like, humans don't actually remember any, sort of like logical fact things. Like we are not actually like super logical beings. We're like sort of emotionally driven story machines. Is that a right assumption, or am I like way off here?
100%. It's true on many levels. So one, there's a ton of psychological research showing exactly that, right? If you give somebody, a story and then you have them read it or maybe try to memorize it, and you ask them 2 weeks later, tell me about this detail, they're going to be pretty bad at it, right? But if you tell them, oh, well, tell me the gist of what happened, they remember the storyline. There's also experiments showing that if you string a bunch of facts together in kind of random order, people aren't able to remember them. It doesn't really have an impact on the behavior. But if you string those facts together in a coherent story where there's an arc and maybe there's characters and you feel emotionally invested, you actually, one, the story influences your behavior more, but two, you also remember these elements as well. So I think it's true that we're storytelling beings in a psychological sense. I also think it's very true in terms of what actually moves marketing. So it's actually a great experiment that was done very recently by Les Binet, where they looked across, it was something like, 2,500 different advertisements, and they had independent ratings of these advertisements in terms of kind of how much they appealed to our kind of rationality and our logic, and also how much they kind of appealed to more of an emotional claim. And what they expected to find was that, oh, we're, humans are complex, and, we have the rational side, we have the emotional side, kind of a very nice story to tell about how there's this, kind of duality to consumer behavior. But what they found was that overwhelmingly, what ended up making the biggest difference was almost never in any instance, any rational claim. It was almost always in every single product category about the emotion. And so not only does storytelling move us, not all it is storytelling kind of how we organize ideas naturally, but also if that storytelling is connected with kind of emotional resonance, that's ultimately what makes the biggest difference above and beyond the rational and the logic in an advertising and marketing sense.
So this is like a fact that might be, if we take this back to real estate, like I helped you save more by my powers of negotiation versus a story that's like my clients live super happy lives with their families in the houses that I help them acquire.
100%, 100%. Yeah. So I think really the most important thing, and I would argue almost the only important thing, is how you make the consumer feel. Everything else is secondary to that, and everything else is in support of that, right? So you can imagine, whatever claim you're going to make to the consumer, we saved you X amount of money, we gave you all these different options, whatever you want to describe in terms of just a descriptive account of what happened. If that account is totally independent or totally devoid of kind of an emotional level, it ceases to make any sort of difference. And if it makes a difference, it does so because people in their own heads associate that with an emotional impact, right? You think, oh, well, they saved me a bunch of money. I feel good about that. I have more expendable income. I feel less stressed about my financial situation. There's an emotional association the consumer's making. And so I think what a lot of marketing could do better, and what a lot of marketing maybe should strive to do more, is making that emotional connection more explicit, right? Don't make consumers make those connections on their own. Don't expect that they actually do that. Make the kind of emotional connection up front. And of course, this is where we get into storytelling, because a lot of advertising, a lot of marketing doesn't work on an explicit level. It works on an implicit, nice, nuanced kind of storytelling level. If you tell consumers, hey, feel relieved, feel happy, feel joyous, feel less stressed, that's not really how emotions work, right? You get to be in this more implicit liminal mode of storytelling and nuance, and that's where really the creative execution comes in.
Yeah, we need to come back to that. When you're talking through a lot about, I'm kind of thinking through like a lot of the perfume or cologne, type ads that are like pure vibes,
Totally.
and they're marketing a product that they're expecting a premium for that, I mean, they can't tell you how it smells, and that would probably be counterproductive. Uh, or the other brand that really comes to mind as you talk through that is like BMW, how they really try and focus on this is the way that you're going to feel driving our vehicle, where I think some of their competitors don't capture that quite the same way. Their brand has been very focused on that.
Absolutely.